Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make a time lapse with your GoPro pictures or any other pictures from any other camera you're using. It's the same process, and we're going to use Adobe Premiere Pro, and I have CS 5.5, but it's basically the same setup for earlier or later versions. So let's jump into it. Just going to create a new project, just call it Timelapse 2. And okay, and then it's going to come up with some sequence presets. Now with some of the later versions, you're able to utilize some of the resolutions like 4K from the red codecs. Since the GoPro that I'm using goes up to 12 megapixels, and coming in it's about 4,000 by 3,000 pixel resolution, I'm actually going to be using one of these 4K presets. If you weren't using a 12 megapixel camera for your pictures, you might be using a smaller codec. So you can find them in the list here, some of them from the digital DSLRs and full HD. You'll be able to use some of those. But basically I'm using this just so it gives me a widescreen shot of my pictures without a bit of a distortion in the editing process. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one here. Okay, so now we're in Premiere, and if you've never been in Premiere before, it's going to look a little intimidating. There's a lot of buttons and gizmos. But first thing you want to do is import your media. A couple different ways you can do it. You can use the media browser here, and you can scroll through and find your file. Or you can go up to File and simply click Import, or use the quick command Control-I or Command-I if you're using a Mac. Or you can double click on this little area here under the sequence, and that'll open up this file system here. Now I already have my folder open to my time lapse of pictures, and they have all of them here, all 975. And so what I thought originally when you're importing the pictures was you just select them all, and Adobe would be smart enough to, or not smart enough, but it would recognize that you're trying to make a video sequence with the pictures. But what actually happens is it imports all the pictures as individual items, just like normally importing a single picture. So that took a long time when I first did it. It almost took 5 minutes to import, because these are fairly big megapixel pictures. And also, when you bring it into your timeline, it would work the same as a regular time lapse of what I'm going to show you next, but you're not able to edit the pictures the same way you would edit video, because they're not actually video. So what I'm going to show you is how to do it in the video sense. So you're going to click on the first picture, and then you're going to come down to this option here named Numbered Stills. Numbered Stills basically is going to create a video sequence with all of the pictures in this file. You only need to highlight the first picture. If you're on a Mac, this Numbered Stills option will be somewhere in the middle here, but it will be here. So then you click Open, and it imports fairly quickly. And then you're going to see here you have your first picture, and it's a .jpeg, but it's a movie file. So if you scrub through up here, it's a little hard to see, but you see the clouds moving, all your pictures are there. And then you can go ahead and drop your sequence right into the timeline. It looks a little stretched, and we have a little bit of black on the edges here, but not too bad compared to bringing it in at its native resolution and then trying to bring it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the Effects tab, and I am going to give it a crop. This is just a personal thing that I like to do. It gives it more of a filmic look to most of my items. But actually, before the crop, we need to give it a bit of motion movement, because we do have these kind of ugly black lines here on the side of our image. So I'm basically just going to scale this in just a little bit, so it gives it more of a forward image into the picture. The GoPro shoots at 12 megapixels with a point of view of wide on 12, and then you have more options as you move down. So since this is very wide, I'm catching side buildings or other things that maybe I didn't want to catch in this. That at 120. So I have the ability to scale in since there's such a high resolution. And that's all I'm probably going to do on that. The next is the crop. Now, depending on how much you scale in, your crop is going to be different. And all this is doing is, if you've heard the term letterbox, it's just going to give it a letterbox. And you'll see what I mean in a second. Let's try 20%. It's not enough. Sometimes you just got to play with it. And that's too much. 30 looks good. So that's just going to give it a letterbox like what you would see in movie theaters and whatnot. It's just a personal thing. You guys don't have to do that. So next what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pre-render this. So this might take a little time, and I'll skip over it if it's too long. Okay, and we're back and the render's done. So I forgot to show you guys how to do a pre-render if you don't know, and why to do a pre-render. So first off, how. You would go up to sequence, and when it has the red bar down here, right now it's green because it's been rendered. When it has the red bar, it means that things haven't been fully rendered in it, and when you're trying to scrub through your work area, it'll be a bit of lag on the scrub. So you can see right now it's fairly fluid, and my computer is not the fastest either, so a pre-render really helps. So you come up here and you render entire work area, and that could take a few moments, but it really helps your work time, and also when you export the file, it'll be a faster render. Another quick way to do it is to press the enter key at any time, as long as you're selected within this work area. So the next thing that I'm going to do is do a bit of color correction on this clip, and as you can see, the clip is a little washed out and flat, which is a good thing. It can just use a little bit in the highlights and in the blacks to bring stuff up and not be so wintry. I know it is winter, but it's just a little drab. And the way I bring up this full screen view of the clip here is by putting my mouse over top of this boxed area here and pressing the little squiggly key. I can't remember the name of it is, but it's right next to the 1 key if you're on a laptop, and I think it's the same for a desktop keyboard. So you have your mouse over this one and you press that key and it brings it up, or you can even do that for down here if you have multiple layers of audio and video. You can see it in full screen. So I'm going to go over here to our effects, and I'm just going to type in fast and scroll down to the fast color corrector. I really like this color corrector because it is fast as advertised in the name, and it's fairly easy to use. There's a great little tutorial page on shaneherbertsdesign.com where you can check out a great way to go about this process of color correcting and how he did it for his films like Act of Valor. So we're going to go in, and the first thing that I do is I like to rescale my work area. So I usually bring the clips down here because I don't really need to see the clip while I'm color correcting, and then I move over the image just to try and get the largest amount of area of the image so I can see the quality of it. I usually start with the black levels right here, and I just bring those up, and it's a good comparison to have this letterbox here because then you can see, you know, what truly is compared to the black of the actual letterbox, which is a true black color or shade. So if you know, like this little door over here is supposed to be black or even a dark brown, you can give it a real comparison towards the letter box here. You don't want to crush it too far. Just bring it in a little. And then you go to the top of the level, play with that. Again, I'm not an expert at this. I'm just going off of other tutorials that I've done on the color correction. And I usually like to add a little bit of color in it, depending on what kind of mood you're going for. If you're going for a very happy mood, you might want some of the more warmer colors. If it's cold, drab, you'd go for some of the more blue. Since this is kind of a sunset, I'm going to go a little more warm. And then I like to boost up the saturation a little, just to give it a little more vibrance in the shot. Another tip when you're doing color correction is to make sure that your clip looks good throughout. So right now I'm sitting on this frame here and it looks great, but since this is moving through time, I want to make sure as the night gets darker that it's still going to look good. So we're getting through the sun setting, it's getting darker and darker. So there it dips a little bit into darkness and it looks okay still. You can leave a little bit of darkness because it is natural towards the progression. Everything looks pretty okay. The end there gets very dark. But this is just a quick overview of the color correction. I would usually spend a little more time with that. One of the things I really like to try and get is these blue skies to be very vibrantly blue and really highlight those tones. But anyways, so the final process of your time-lapse will be exporting. And how you do that is you're going to go down to your clip down here and you're going to select it and you go File, Export Media, or Control M or Command M. And then that's going to bring up this window here. Again, lots of settings here, and when I first started using the program it was very confusing on what is being exported and what file format and what is best for what. So since this sequence is actually a 4K sequence, it would make sense to render it in 4K. And I did a bit of research and found that QuickTime was a very good sequence in a widescreen, and then you could go down to the settings down here and bring it up to 4K and make sure that you have max render quality on. But if you have any plans to put this video or this time-lapse up onto YouTube, it wouldn't be a good idea to do 4K. One, because the render time for this video just out of Premiere was, I think, 1 hour and 20 minutes for all of a 50-second clip or 32-second clip, which is ridiculous. So I chose to go back to H.264, which is very compatible with YouTube's codec and for uploads, and I just went down to 1080p 24 high quality, and then I chose max render quality. So it's technically a custom and it's going to use the max quality. It is going to be a long render. It's probably going to be about 30 to 40 minutes, but your upload to YouTube will be, I think, all of like 15 minutes, whereas compared to when I rendered mine out the first time in 4K, the initial startup estimated time from YouTube was, I think, 240 hours, and going up from there every second I let it keep uploading, and I quickly canceled that. So then you would go on and export. The last thing you want to make sure before you export your file is where is it going. So this output name is the name, and if you click on it, it's going to bring it to a folder, and you can name it and choose the destination where you want it to export. So I hope this helped you guys in creating a time-lapse in Premiere, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. Thanks.